Hey everybody, we are going to be painting a face today, and it's a famous face. We are painting a Brittany Murphy. I'm going through this part kind of in a faster speed just because this is, as you can see, a very long video. So just want to show you guys the very first thing to keep in mind is in order to really do portraits, faces, um, you have to start with very, very, very light and thin layers. So as you can see here, the color that I'm using, the skin tone I'm using is just barely darker than the white paper itself. So um, the right side of her face, our left, is a little bit darker because that's the side that's going to be hanging in a shadow a bit. But I'm just, going in a little bit darker in the areas I know there's shadow, but really just trying to almost stain the paper with color. So, like if you think of like a tea stain, like it's just like shade darker, you can barely see it. And I'm just covering her entire face and neck area just to get this kind of taken care of. So, um, one of the things I do is I do take a washcloth, a dry washcloth, clean one, and use that to dab quite a bit. So if it gets kind of blotchy in areas, just lift it with the paper towel or a dry cloth just to be able to um, keep it that smooth skin look, especially somebody like Brittany Murphy, these actresses, of course, I'm sure these photos are photoshopped quite a bit, so they're looking a lot more smooth than they do in real life. Um, she was obviously a very gorgeous person, so I don't know how much she would need, but so younger people, photoshopped photos, babies, these are all skin tones that you really want to be careful with because it can get blotchy very easily, and we of course don't want that. So clearly her cheekbone area is going to be a little bit darker. If you wear makeup, then you know that's where your blush goes, right? Because you want to create that hollowness in your cheek. So creating that effect with the color, and you probably still see a little bit of the reflection from the water on the paper. It's good for the paper to remain damp, and you kind of need to work quicker on this, which I know is probably the difficult part about everything, but the quicker you work, the less shadowing and lines you'll get that don't blend. And so I'm just doing both sides of her cheeks. And as you can see, it's not much darker than the paper, only a couple shades darker than the paper, but you can already see a little bit of the shadowing coming together. Um, and it's almost like, I don't know if you guys have ever done anything like this, but or if they even still have it. But I remember when I was younger, I used to go to like the MAC counter and they would do your makeup. And as they're doing your makeup, they would have a piece of paper with a face on it, like a really kind of crude face. And they would use the actual makeup to color in the face to show you what colors were there, where they put it. So it kind of reminds me of that. I feel like a lot of people probably haven't done that, so it's probably not a great example. But if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. But the paper's white, and you can still see. So you saw that I actually did go over her entire skin area with color, and now as it dries, it doesn't even look like it's much darker than the paper. But the final effect I'm going for in this is I do want it to be kind of a more I don't want to say pale because it's a negative word. I'm looking for a little bit more restrained on the painting itself to kind of show that it's like the simplicity in the painting, if that makes sense. So I'm going to be restraining throughout this entire painting and really withholding paint back because I think that would be, in general, has been my experience and really making portraits work. Um, I've seen people, on TikTok and YouTube and all these places paint portraits and they go heavy on colors and blues on skin and it turns out beautifully. It's a completely different way of doing it. I'll probably put together a video in the future with something like that, but this is not one of those. This is one where we're going very light. We're going to layer in very, very thin layers throughout. And right now I'm just looking for where these darker shadows are, of course, around the eye. You're going to have darker, um, the nostril area, above the lip. As you can see, we did the hollows of her cheeks, around the edge of her forehead, near her hairline. Um, we'll go under her chin as well, and um, the nostrils will get much darker, but I actually got asked this question in my workshop last night was, how do you get that color right off the bat, that dark shadow color? And as you can see, I layer it in. I like doing this better because you have more control. And if you're painting a face or anything really, and you're like, oh, this is a really dark brown or dark black, and you go into that color right away and it's not right, you're kind of stuck trying to fix it. So this way you have more control. You can add it in as you feel it needs it. It is a little bit more tedious, but it's also a process I love. It's painting. You're painting. So um, I think it just helps quite a bit. And as you can see, I was dabbing with a towel there, just trying to lift up some of the color, just trying to maintain that control. You're starting to see her face come into a little bit of a shape here, trying to get a little bit dimension here. I feel like once I added that shadow to her nose area, it really started to come together. So as I'm finishing up her shadowing and skin tone, I'm just going to let this play for a bit while you guys watch this part happen. I didn't want to speed it up just so I can fill it in with talking, but I did want to show you the entire process. So I'm going to be back once we move towards the next step in the face. Okay, I'm back. So we are going to be focusing on the eyes right now. A lot of it is because I want her skin to dry quite a bit at this point, just because when we add in more details, I don't want any bleeding. But she's got these really beautiful hazel eyes, which are fun eye colors to paint because there's so many different colors in it. So I'm using use your finest brush that you have just so you can get the details in there. But you want to start with the lightest color that you see in the eye, which is kind of this like yellowish green color undertone. I left the areas around the kind of the pinpoint reflections, um, just to obviously, I'd rather use the white of the paper than use something like bleed proof white and something like this. So as you can see on the left eye there, her right eye, I'm doing that really light tone. And then I kind of stamped it with the washcloth just to lift up the water. I want to bleed a little bit to create that blend. I don't want to bleed so much that it covers her entire eye. So what's nice about a bleed with the watercolor is it naturally creates these ridges using the fabric of the paper, which is what we want. So as you can see, you can still see that undertone there, but you got a shadowing around it. I put some lines in there just to create that in there as well. And then I added the dark pupils as well. And I'm letting that kind of bleed in as well. And then I have the shadows at the top, and it just came together rather quickly. Um, you don't want to overthink eyes, and it doesn't take much to get them right. And then, you can always come back and add a little bit more of a darker pupil later once it dries, but, and then the darker ridge of the outline of the eye. So that's really all it takes to get the eye color. And what I did first to learn this was only paint eyes. So I would get a really, really large photo, and by really large, I mean just the eyes, so an 8 by 10 of the eyes, so you really get the details, and then just paint the eyes, because then you really get an idea of where coloring goes, where lighting goes, and all that stuff. So that's how I practiced first, and then once you do that, you kind of know, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing on the smaller scale. I have a lot of people who pick me as an artist to do commission work, and they say the biggest reason is eyes. So I think that the eyes, I was gonna say the windows of the soul, which is so cheesy. Um, the eyes really are the identifier of a person when you recognize them, or a dog, or a cat. It's all about the eyes. If you don't get the eyes right, you kind of lose that individual that you recognize. So I think it's really important to really nail that. And we think of the white of the eyes. The white of the eyes are not white. They have a kind of a bluish grayish tone to them. It's never white. Um, and then of course they're round, so you're gonna have the shadows in the corners, and then the skin tone. You have that inner eye part where you're gonna have that I just painted right there. You want that to be skin tone. But as you can see, I added a little bit of that bluish color to the white of the eyes. When you look at the painting, you would never really know that, but if I hadn't done that, you would think the eyes look weird. Um, it's one of those details that you're just like, oh, why do the eyes look so weird? A lot of times it's because people leave the white of the eyes just white, and it's not. It's got a blue shade to it, and the corners are going to be darker. So make sure to always do that when you're painting eyes. For humans, obviously dogs, most animals I don't think have the whites of the eyes. Of course, chimps and stuff do, but they're our cousins, right? So uh, just kind of going off on a weird tangent here about eyes. But anyways, don't leave the white of the eyes white. So now I'm doing the nostrils, adding more shadow in here. I am going to go back and add more, of course, detail to her eyes. I'm going to add the eyelashes and the creases and just keep building up. She's got a little mole. She has a little Marilyn Monroe mole there that I added in. I gotta leave that in. That's one of those things that if you don't put that in, people don't realize that's how they identify. I mean, of course, Marilyn Monroe, she was kind of famous for it, or Cindy Crawford. But otherwise, you don't notice people's moles for the most part. But if you don't have them in there, you notice something's missing. So it's one of those things. Like if you said, "Oh, does Brittany Murphy have a mole?" We wouldn't know, but now you do. So I'm adding shadow to her lips here. So lips are interesting because people like to paint lips very dimensional. They put very hard lines in the lips when they're doing that because in real life, your lips stick out from your face. However, when it comes to pictures, your lips don't really if you look at pictures, unless you're wearing lipstick, your lips, parts of your lips will blend into your face, especially like the lower corners, outer edges. Um, you'll not notice a hard line there. The lines that really need to be there are usually near the teeth area where it opens. That's where your dark shadowing is going to go the most. And I've noticed people tend to do it on the outside of the lips instead of the inside of the lips. So you don't want to do that. You want to keep your shadowing to the inside where your teeth are, because that's where you see the dark shadows. The rest of it kind of not blends into the face, but it doesn't stand out as much as people think it does. And then, of course, this corner here, she's got her mouth partly open. But this corner here is going to be a little bit darker of a shadow. I'm going to pop in the photo right now that I'm using as a reference. So this way you can actually see what I'm painting. So you can see how the upper part of her lip here has more shadows cast in it. And you can see how her skin does look rather lighter, but I'm not going to go as dark as it is in the picture. It just won't translate well with the painting, but her upper entire lip is darker and the corners are as well, just to give you a little bit of that reference point. Like I said, obviously a beautiful woman who is unfortunately no longer with us, died far too young. I think she was 33 or 34. So very, very young. And so I'm just going to work a little bit on her lips here, and I'll zoom in so that you can take a look and enjoy this part of the painting. Okay, so we've come back to the eyes here, and I've added some eyelashes and stuff. This is, I feel like, when the eyes really start to come together. You really start to see everything pop. I'm increasing the crease of her eyes. That's not easy to say. And the shadowing and stuff, just to give her that. She does have that. She has some makeup on, so that's obviously going into play here. And she's got these beautiful lashes. I don't think we didn't, so we definitely had like eyelash extensions back then. Back in the day, I was a makeup artist for Hollywood, so we did have permanent lashes. It was just not a thing that people did. It was just not. It was not an easy task to do, and we didn't have the glue that we have now, so it was very irritable. So most women went with the glue on strips, but hers were done so well you can't see the line on it, which is really pretty amazing. But I'm just obsessing because I have to pay money to get my lashes to look like this. So, working on the eyebrows, she is a blonde, so her eyebrows are not going to be dark. I think she obviously colors her eyebrows as well to match her hair a bit. So we want to go in light. I do create the hair effect with the brush. I'm using the silver. I love my silver brushes. At first, I hated them because they were so weird, hard to get used to. But now that I am used to it, excuse me, they are pretty amazing. So I'm using the silver black velvet brush in a size 4, which has this kind of natural bristle to it that almost helps with the eyelashes and eyebrows. So it's a great tool to use for this. And silver brushes are not cheap. So if you're going to invest in one, I have the size 4, like I mentioned, and the size 12. And I use both of those pretty regularly. And then, those are good sizes to start with. And then you can always add on to your collection. And these are on my supply list as well. So if you ever need help finding it, it looks weird for other eye without the eyelashes. Look how different it is. It almost looks like it's white around her eyes there, which it obviously isn't. It just looks really, really strange. So where did I go? I took a little bit of a break here. I think I'm trying to get the eyelashes together. But it's just, you could really see the stark difference when you don't have eyelashes. Definitely looks alien in nature, which is kind of funny. So, but you could see that her face is really starting to come together and look like a face now. So, as I'm doing these eyelashes, I'm working my way through them sparingly. Want to make sure I don't overdo it. And then, adding the darker ridge there, which, like I said, just really completes the look. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up here with my tutorial part of the thing so you can watch the rest of the video. There's still quite a bit, a little over half an hour left on the video. But most of the direction is pretty much repetitive at this point. I'll do the hair, but I just want you to see the full painting done in real time. And if you have any questions, of course, let me know.